A while back, we got tons of rumors for a potential Black Flag remake, and it looks like it's true. The CEO of Ubisoft recently confirmed that multiple Assassin's Creed games are going to get a remake. Remakes are kind of popular in the industry right now, so it makes sense. And it's also less risky cause it's kind of an old idea that already succeeded, which makes it much easier to pull off again. He didn't exactly state which games are going to get a remake, but I assume all of the games from the PS3 and Xbox 360 generation have quite a high chance of getting that remake, at least in my opinion. From Unity onwards, the games look very modern, but I wouldn't mind a Unity remake cause some of the mechanics in that game are still a bit iffy, like the noticeable input lag and the cover system being a bit janky, just to name a few problems. Anyways, I'm not feeling completely positive about this move, because I feel like there's a chance they could make some things worse, like maybe trying to make the older games have much more content and it becoming a bit too bloated. I don't mind if they add more content if it's good though. But Ubisoft has a tendency to add a bit too much, which results in some of their games feeling a bit bloated. Plus, the quality of the content is all over the place. I'm also a bit worried that they might try to tweak the older stories and make them a bit worse. I also hope they don't do the anti-consumer thing that some publishers do, which is delisting the original game once the remake comes out. The old game should always be there for people to play, as game preservation is important, but it's not all gloom and doom cause there are some good things they can still do with this. The combat system in some of the older games were a bit too easy at times, which made some of the encounters look a bit funny. For example, in Black Flag, it should be much more difficult to take out a trained assassin when compared to a normal guard, but it's not the case in that game. It's just as easy to take out a guard when compared to an assassin. These are highly trained killers that are supposed to be the best of the best, so they should be a bit more difficult to take out. Even the other classic Assassin's Creed games had a bit too simple of a combat system. So it would be nice of them to try to make combat a little better while not going completely into the RPG approach. Even the stealth system can be improved for the older games, like adding a cover system, giving them more tools, or more hiding places, just to name a few. Maybe even trying to improve the parkour system, but I don't really have faith in that because the best parkour system in the series is still the first 4 games. Another thing they can improve upon in the remakes is cutting down the number of collectibles. Every single classic Assassin's Creed game had a bit too much of pointless collectibles. Like, why in the world would Altair be running all over the place for some random flags, or why would Ezio randomly be opening every chest all over Italy? The only game where it was more reasonable was Black Flag, cause Edward always wanted to explore to get more money since he was so obsessed with it, but even taking that into account, there was just too many chests. Anyway, if they manage to reduce the collectibles, it could make the entire experience feel less tedious. Speaking of tedious things, tailing missions are something that should be tweaked as well. I know it's somewhat necessary to have some tailing missions as an assassin, but maybe they could reduce the amount of them cause games like Black Flag had a bit too much of them. They could also try to add more stealth encounters to the tailing missions to keep the player a bit more engaged instead of just slowly following a target, which can get boring. I also hope they don't bring back the ship tailing missions in the future because my god were those bad. Imagine trying to follow a much smaller ship on a gigantic ship with very little cover. So if they manage to fix the tailing problem that the older games had, then it would also help in enhancing the overall experience. So you can see why I'm not completely down on this idea, because they can still improve on some mechanics and make the older games better. The only thing I'm worried about is them trying to mess with the story and making it worse. Even a game like Final Fantasy VII suffered from this problem. The gameplay is great, but the story is quite inferior to the OG Final Fantasy. But at the end of the day, this is just my opinion, which is why I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. Are you happy with Ubisoft exploring the idea of remaking the older games? And if you are for that idea, be sure to let me know in the comments below which Assassin's Creed games you think deserve a remake. And with that being said, this has been 2367 Ruben, signing out.